Everyone, and welcome to the October 2024 Tableau Public Tug. We have a lot for you today, so let's get started. As always, we're here to answer the questions, why did you do that? How did you do that? And the most important question of all, how did you make it look so good? Our hosts today are Agata Ketterick and Preethi Lodha, and myself. We're all proud members of the Tableau Ambassadors class of 2024. I'm going to let Agata and Preethi introduce themselves in the next segment. But today's guests are Maureen Okonkwo and Brittany Rosenau. They are Tableau visionaries and ambassadors, and they have some wonderful Viz of the Days for us today. Our agenda will be my brief introduction, then Agata and Preethi will give us a quick rundown of how to share your
inspiration
on Tableau Public and give credit to people who have helped inspire you. Maureen is going to show us her Viz of the Day, and we'll have a quick swag drawing, and then we'll follow up with Brittany. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Agata and Preethi. Take it away.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everyone. I hope you all can see the screen. So let's start today's conversation. Agata and I are going to talk about inspiration in the world of data viz. We also had the opportunity to share a blog post a couple of months on the same topic. Before I get deep into the topic, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. I'm Preethi Lodha. I'm currently a Tableau Public ambassador. I have 3 Viz of the Days. And for a fun fact, if you go on to my Tableau Public profile, you will see that there is a visualization that has 1 million views on it. Crazy of how that has happened, but that is the case for now. Agata?
Hi, everyone. I'm Agata Ketterick. I am also a Tableau Public ambassador. And I've had 11 of my Vizes featured as Viz of the Day. My fun fact is that I've visited 48 of the 50 states in the US. So about 15 years ago, I actually worked for an organization called Leave No Trace with my husband. And we led trainings, workshops, and outreach programs across the country focused on enjoying the outdoors responsibly. So we got to visit all 48 states, and I still have Alaska and Hawaii on my bucket list.
What are the 2 states, Agata, that you have not visited? You have to share that.
Alaska and Hawaii, the hardest ones to get to. We couldn't drive there.
That's true. So back at the Tableau conference, we were all excited for Agata's when Ryan was doing his presentation about the keynote. And we had this beautiful image of Agata come up with her visualization up there. And I think we cheered so loud for you, Agata, at this. Can you briefly talk about what this Viz is and how this has evolved?
Yeah. So this was definitely one of the highlights of Tableau conference this year for me. Ryan Ate was talking about Tableau Public, and he highlighted 4 visualizations that are in Tableau Public. And this was one of them. So this is definitely super exciting. But so the backstory on these visualizations, I stumbled across this great data set about childcare costs in the US. And having gone through, the struggle of paying for childcare for many years myself, this topic really hit home for me. And it's really quite shocking how unaffordable childcare is in the US. But so I really wanted to make the story pop. So I needed a map that was not only informative, but really also visually stunning. And I remembered coming across Demola's incredible visualization about home prices in the US. And it was just so beautiful, and it really blew me away. And it entirely inspired my design of my visualization. So one of the the coolest things I think about really studying someone else's design is that you always end up learning something new. For me, it was Demol's incredible attention to detail. So usually when you create a chloropleth map at the county level, for the US at least, you lose the state outlines, which kind of makes everything blend together and you can't really tell which state is which. So at first I had no idea how he had actually outlined all the states, but also kept the chloropleth at the county level. But kind of reverse engineering what he had done, I learned how to do it. So actually using map layers, it's a really cool trick. And I think it really just brings it up to that next level, so you can see each state really clearly. Yeah. Finding the right color palette was also super crucial, but I won't even go into how long that took me.
That is a whole segment we will do probably when you present your viz of the day. You have to walk us through all those details, Agata. But I heard you use the word inspiration, and I think currently in the Tableau community there has been a conversation about what can we call inspiration and what is plagiarism with your data visualizations. And I think you just explained what inspiration is. Like you took a few of the ideas or the unique way or reverse engineered the MoLA's map and figured a case or a subset that worked for you. And you made that viz your own, bringing all your design perspectives and stuff. So I think that's a great example of what inspiration can look like. But then there is the other side, which is plagiarism, where you just like somebody's build and without adding anything extra to it, showcase their work as your own work and call it plagiarism. And the fun fact on the slide is we have self-referenced our blog. So there is a level of inception going on up here. So what does plagiarism look like? Plagiarism can look like this. So you see on to your left-hand side, there was a visualization that got created on your right-hand side. Somebody uploaded this to their public profile and added a bit said designed by. So this is an exact replica or copy. There are opportunities where sometimes you're trying to learn somebody else's viz, so you upload it to your Tableau Public profile. That is understandable. But with Tableau Public having the ability to hide it in the background and not publish it as your own, this will be constituted as plagiarism. But what does inspiration look like? So the inspiration could look like something like this, right? This is one of the steam graphs that I had created for my America's International Student viz on the right-hand side. I had seen this viz, the Friends viz, and I was inspired by the color tone and the graph. And I didn't know what this graph is called. So literally took to the Google and I was like, what is this floating area chart called? Didn't know it was called steam graph. It took me a minute to get to that point. And once I figured it is a steam graph, there are lots of tutorials and stuff readily available in the community. So I was able to figure out how to build a steam graph, brought my data into it, inspired by the color palette and the background tone. I transformed my data set to look something like this. Cool. So why is it important to be inspired? What do you think, Agata? What are the cases? How does one's learning journey get impacted by learning or reverse engineering others' vizes?
I think in so many different fields, just you get inspired, you kind of like build on your knowledge. I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think I'd be half the designer if I hadn't, kind of looked at what other people had done and tried to basically copy what they did, but like kind of put your own spin on it. like I said with Damola's example, you just like learn these little neat tricks or new things that you haven't thought of. I think there's so many different examples. I mean, in this field, but like in any field too, you know. But
no, cool. And Kevin's note in our blog also makes sense, right? You want to build your own set of skills when you're learning from somebody else rather than just blatantly copying and pasting it. But what could this chain of inspiration look like? It can look like something like this. So Agata, what are we seeing on screen?
So this is a great story. So like I mentioned, my Viz was inspired by Damola. But then when we talked to Brittany about this topic, she mentioned how my Viz had inspired her Viz, and she didn't know how to do the map projection that I had used. And so she followed the chain all the way back to Kevin Flaherlidge's blog post about how to do this Robinson projection, where you have Alaska and Hawaii kind of underneath the United States there, so you can see it all in one neat square, which led her to Sarah Battersby's data set. And it's just this cool way of learning, you know, being able to follow the trail all the way and figuring out how to do this great projection. And this is an example that, you know, goes back, what, like five different visualizations. And we just sort of randomly found out about this one, but I'm sure there's lots of different examples like this as well.
No, this was so cool to see the chain of inspiration that goes on. And this is helpful, right? Like somebody is learning. Same goes with me. I was inspired by one of the visualizations, created a Viz, and somebody else got inspired by my visualization. So giving this credit sort of creates that chain for people to see how a visualization can evolve, how it can fit to your needs, how you can have different stories based upon the same design or learning principles that you have implemented. So, and just so you all know, this slide, I saw Damola do a presentation at Analytics Tug, and he had put this in his presentation, and I'm like, I'm stealing it. I love this, how he has put the slide together. So just so you know, at the bottom it says, the slide is inspired by Damola's presentation. So we give credit everywhere. So how can we give credit on Tableau Public, if you ask me? If you publish your visualization on Tableau Public and you have been inspired by somebody else's work, you can use the inspiration field for attribution. So you see, you put the name in, and in the inspiration field, you can tag the Tableau Public Viz. But this works only for Tableau visualization. If you were inspired by something else, on an external Tableau, or non-Tableau, or an external imagery or stuff, there are multiple ways of giving attribution. You can give them a shout out on social media. You can link that person within your visualization, give credit to your data sources, give a call out for the community project that you're working on. For example, you're doing a Makeover Monday Viz, right? Put it in the title, it's a Makeover Monday Viz. So it sort of gives credit to where you got the data from, where you got your images from, where you got your inspiration from. And these learning practices will help somebody new when they look at your visualization and see, oh, these are the resources that I can also learn from. So these are the few ways of giving credit. I would like to hear from you all in chat. What are the other ways you have given credit for your visualization? Anything I'm missing from these credit giving links, Agata? Are there any other fun or unique ways of doing this?
I think you covered it, but yeah, just reiterating, like, I think if my data isn't my own, I always put where I found it. I think I learned it, back in school when we had to credit our sources and everything. It's just a good habit to get into. It helps kind of transparency, but also if people are really interested in the data, they can go find it themselves as well. And I think it's just a really good practice.
No, cool. Okay, so we have come to the segment where I would like to invite Brittany, Eric, and Maureen. Come tell us what have been your source of inspiration? Like when you are building visualizations, what is your go-to place to look at? I can start the process. I love having this book on my desk. It's Art Plus Data. There are so many good design tips and examples that I look up to and use as a reference guide initially when I was learning Tableau and building my stuff. So this is one of my go-to books. Agata?
I don't know if I have one place. It kind of depends what I'm doing, but I often go to Tableau Public. It's a great place to start. For one of my vises, it was, I think, a lot more artsy than I had done before. And my first go around, it was my mountain hikes. And so it has these little badges with a mountain. My first attempt was terrible. And I actually reached out to Lindsay Betzendahl and I was like, I need some ideas. And she suggested going to Dribble, which is this website that just, has a lot of different designs and kind of Googling like national parks and things like that. And so she kind of helped lead me to where I can find some design inspirations. So it can be, I don't know, anywhere.
Yeah.
Brittany, how about you? Are some of your favorite places to go?
If anyone in the Tableau community has a blog, I definitely follow that. But if I start naming favorites, we'll be here forever and I'll get in trouble. But another thing is I like to follow sources outside of the Tableau community. Just helps me think outside the box a bit. So a few of my favorites are, it's a newsletter blog called Flowing Data by Nathan Yao. I'll drop these in the chat as I go. He has a great blog and showcases a lot of data visualizations from different news sites that I don't subscribe to every single one of them, but when something catches his eye, he usually sends out a note, and I find a lot of inspiration from that. There's a site called Brand New that tracks when brands undergo a branding change, and so sometimes that's a fun resource for color palettes or just seeing how people think about graphic design. The Data Viz Dispatch from Data Wrapper has a lot of great charts showcased every Tuesday, I think it is. And they're also a great resource for kind of Data Viz do's and don'ts that I reference constantly. And then another one that I would go to for, I would say, storytelling is pudding.cool. They've got tons of great interactive scrollytelling, click-through, just kind of really rich data stories that are really well put together. Those I would say right now are maybe my top 5 like out-of-the-box inspiration sources.
Great list.
Well, I'll jump in next and say my best source of inspiration is the reason we're here. I love the Viz of the Days and the trending Vizes on Tableau Public. I love to download and just reverse engineer stuff. I'm not that creative on my own to create all this stuff on my own, but I do like to take the pieces and parts and put them together. My other source of inspiration is the O'Reilly Books Online subscription. And it's got basically all of your computer books in one place that you can go and check things out. Sunday, I listened to an audio book called Decision-Driven Analytics. As an analyst, I really like to jump into the data and start pulling it apart. But it was a book about go in and look at your process for what you want to do for the business, build that process, and then go find the data that will support that process instead of just going straight into the data and looking for outliers and all that sort of stuff that we usually do. So that's my two sources of inspiration I'll share.
No, yeah, those are absolutely great. Thank you. And as Jim said, you reverse engineer a lot of times these Tableau Public quizzes, and we at the Tableau Public tag also provide you that space, right, where the author comes and shows you of how it is done. So we are taking away the need for you to reverse engineer if there was a viz of the day. So feel free to let us know which viz of the day you would like to see in future being presented and shared with. So having said that, I'm going to wrap up this conversation by saying Tableau Community Code of Conduct principles that you give credit where credit is due. This will sort of create a learning trail for your fellow new enthusiasts or people who have been in Tableau and have not interacted with a bespoke chart or trying to learn a different skill set, because Tableau is so wide. There is a thing to learn every day. So do give credit where credit is due. And that is all we have today for you in this segment. I hope you share your inspirations in the chat. And yeah, that is all I got. Any final words, Agata?
I don't think so. Happy visiting.
That is the key. Happy visiting. I'm going to stop my share and thank you all. Okay, so the next segment we have is with Maureen. Thank you, Maureen, for joining us. What I'm literally trying to do is pull up your introduction so that I can introduce you. Give me a second. People can say hi so that they don't have to get me. Okay, so Maureen is a Tableau developer and business intelligence analyst with over 3 years of experience. She specializes in creating engaging dashboards and reports and has been recognized as Tableau's most notable newbie in 2024. Congratulations, Maureen, on your Vizzy. It is really exciting. Maureen has 3 Viz of the Days, and she is a frequent speaker at the virtual event where she shares her business intelligence and data visualization insights. Currently, Maureen works as a Tableau analytics consultant at Swift Insights and collaborates with clients in e-commerce, data infrastructure, and analytics to deliver impactful solutions. Today, Maureen is going to talk to us about her very hugely popular dashboard, which showcases the Udemy Course Analysis. So thank you, Maureen, for joining us. I know you are in a completely different time zone, so we really appreciate you coming and doing this presentation with us.
Can you confirm if you can hear me?
I do hear you, yes.
Oh, okay. I almost missed the timing because what I was seeing on my PC was different from what I was seeing on my phone. That's why I had to come in a couple of minutes late, and I'm truly sorry about that.
Don't worry about it. You are here for your segment, so that is all we need.
All right. So today I'll be presenting the Udemy Course Analysis dashboard, and I'll quickly dive in to share my screen. Okay. Hope we can see this.
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay, lovely. So I'll just be quick in this view because I think Preethi has already done justice in the introduction. So my name is Maureen Okonkwo. I basically work for Swift Insight as their Tableau analytics consultant. I decided to take Tableau Public last year, and these are the perks that comes with it. So moving forward, I do not like talking about myself so much. But today we'll be talking about Udemy Course Analysis, the design, the data, and also the data storytelling. So these are the objectives we have. The dashboard overview, which is just a small clip, or I'll play, or I'll have to move over to Tableau Public just to explain one or two things for you guys. Then we'll talk about the data source, where I got the data source from. I know a couple of persons on LinkedIn kept on reaching out during the event I posted this. They kept on asking, where did I get this data source? So we'll also look at it today. The inspiration behind the design, a couple of wireframing tactics I used, how I incorporate the design, storytelling, and finally the tools I'll also recommend. Before we go further, I always like to put out this post out there because a lot of people guess to think visualization is all about pictures and beauty, but it's more about communication and insight. So Edward Tubbs, which is the godfather of visualization per se, said the purpose of visualization is insight and not pictures. And before we dive in fully to what we have for today, which is this presentation, I would like us to have this in mind as I explain further what I did in my Udemy dashboard. So this is the quick clip. Once you see this dashboard, you see colors, first of all, the dynamic of colors, and you will see the KPIs being listed here. You will see the bar charts, or progressive bar charts as we all call it. And on the right-hand side, you see a different thing altogether. So I'm going to dissect all of this today, and I hope not to bore you guys. And for the questions, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. You can ask at the end of this session, or you can also ask while I'm trying to explain this on the go. So the data source, Preethi can put the link there on the Q&A session, or on the chat session rather. So the data set was gotten from Oyin's data set. So this apparently is a data company that comes up with data challenges every single month. Prior to this, I have been trying to build visualizations around different data industries. I never had done anything about edtech or education or courses and all of that. When I saw this, I felt like this was something I would love to be part of. So I decided to hop on the challenge. Luckily for me, the data set was a bit clean. I just did a little bit of cleaning just on a few of the columns, which wasn't hard, which you can just easily do it in Excel. And I strongly advise, if it can be done in Excel, please do. Of course, Tableau Prep also can do an amazing job, but if it can be done in Excel, just do it and save yourself a lot of stress. So this was what the data set looks like. Very simple data set. There were no like complicated columns for me to clean. There was URL, which I didn't bother to use in this visualization. Well, that depends on my narrative of the Udemy dashboard. So for some persons, they had to use this URL, but I didn't use it. So going forward, we'll be talking about inspiration. Then, as of January 2024, where I was trying to get a grasp of what visualization is all about and how to make sure I do a good visuals, every single month I have a data fam person who is my inspiration every single month. This month, I'm having Ladipo as my inspiration. I don't know if anybody knows him. I can't pronounce his last name. But as of January 2024, Nari Solgani was my inspiration for that month. So what it means is I go on Tableau Public, and I don't know why Preethi didn't ask me about where I get my inspiration from when she was asking everybody, but I'm going to say mine now. So I get inspiration from Tableau Public. I think that is the first place I always go to before any other stuff. Tableau Public and Pinterest. But as I was starting out with this project, I already knew the kind of data I wanted to build. And I already knew the kind of person that would have that kind of ideology and trying to play with colors. So I always came through this guy's profile rather, every single day just to like play around. Unfortunately for me, he doesn't have the whole download button open, so there's no reverse engineering here. You just have to get inspired with the chart and with the colors and the layout. So moving further, when I saw this, I knew I wanted to do something really good and very minimal, but still great. So I went on Pinterest, like I said before. Pinterest has always been a place I always go to for inspiration. So right there and then, I knew I wanted to tell the data story kind of visualization. And I was just skimming through. As you can see, these two visits do not look like what Udemy dashboard is. That's because this was my initial idea of trying to build this. And I know like a lot of persons have this experience where they have something in mind initially, and at the end of the day, they end up with total different stuff. Yes, that was me. So this was my two inspiration, but as I was trying to build out and think of how to tell the story concerning that dashboard, I decided that I do not want to have a lot of text on my dashboard. And as you can see, this inspiration had a lot of text, but I still kept it based because of the color and the arrangement and the layout of this dashboard. Moving on, after so many thoughts, I finally stumbled on Murillo Cremon's dashboard. The first time I saw it, I instantly loved it. I loved the way he was so subtle with the colors, most especially, which is I'm more I'm more concerned about. I love the layout and the arrangement of his work. And I knew that if I'm going to do something like this, it has to look well arranged and well detailed like this. And moving forward, I had to make sure I got the nitty-gritties of the dashboard right. I decided that I do not want to use the regular bar charts. I went on Zainab Ayodimeji's just bar charts on Tableau Public. I had to look at the different bar charts she had, and I decided I was going to go with this. What this is popularly called progressive, but you can call it a part to whole or part of a whole kind of bar chart. That was what I used. Then on the KPI, I decided to go check out Idris Akilaba and Bola Adebayo's 20 ways to design your KPI on Tableau Public. I had to find, ideas, and I didn't want to do the regular stuff, if I may say. But these were the two materials I actually used to craft out that dashboard. The other part of the dashboard is just a normal scatter plot that we know, histogram and bar chart. Then when I was starting out with this dashboard, I did not have so much of Figma skills. Although I use Excalidraw, which I think I have to drop the link later on. But my first step was sketching. I know a lot of people don't do this, or maybe, but before I go ahead to build out anything in Tableau, I always try as much as I can to make sure that I have a sketch of it on a paper, which always helps. But when you look at this almost looks like this. But if you look at the initial inspiration I had, which was this was what I was trying to achieve before I saw Cremon's work. But at the end of the day, we finally get to this. At this point, I was still playing with the colors. I was still trying to redesign. I was still trying to, build out the layout and all of that. But it took me a while to finally achieve this. So these were the steps I took to finally achieve this Udemy dashboard. Like I said, I was going to talk about the layout and a little bit of wireframing. And when I was building out this dashboard, I knew I knew where I want my users to read first. And I knew that if I had to place a little bit of information, it has to follow the Gutenberg principle. I know a lot of us have heard about the Z pattern, the F pattern. So yeah, it's a kind of principle every designer follow out there, or every visualization developer follows out there. So when you go to your website, the first place you get to see is your top left, and that is called the primary optical area. That is where your eye gets to see first. And believe me, when I open this dashboard, this presentation, you must have read this before this, or maybe not. So once you open a dashboard, that is where you're going to look at. And that is what I was trying to implement in my work. At the The second level is naturally our eyes gets to drag us down to the terminal area. And we have the strong follow area. Here we can keep our call to actions, our KPIs, our filters, and maybe some of the less important stuff on the right hand side. Then here we can keep every other information we need on the weak follow area. So this was the principle I used. Like I said, some persons can use the F pattern, which is absolutely okay, but generally people get to adopt this the most because of the way our eyes get to read stuff on the screen. So talking about the Z pattern, like I said, I had to follow the Gutenberg principle. When you look at this dashboard, you definitely see I had two headers. And I know you might be wondering, why does Maureen have these two titles or two headers? Because naturally, this is a two different dashboard meshed together. The side of this dashboard is strictly meant for the executives. The other side is for people that wants to know more or see more or find more insight in whatever they're trying to look for. And of course, I am the person telling the story, and I'm the one trying to bring people's attention to where I want it to be. So first of all, I talked about the courses, the subjects. Like the video I played earlier, each of the colors represents each subject. And the students, the total price, the lectures, they were my KPIs. So I had to make sure that if you're coming to this dashboard, the first thing you need to see is this part. And moving further, I had to also implement the Gutenberg principle, like I told you, on how to read. This was implemented mostly on this side of this dashboard, where I was talking about how much a student's willing to invest. Here you can see that, okay, $180 were the highest amount, apart from $0, of course. We all love free things, where the highest amount people would love to invest. And on the next hand side of things, I get to explain which courses are these $180 being invested the most. And for instance, in this view, we are using the web development, and we can see that the complete web developer course 2.0, where the courses that has the highest number of students investing in it. And down here, I decided to do a little bit of reviews and also feedback, where you can compare the student reviews versus each of those subjects, same as this other side. So this was the idea I was trying to put out there when I was working on this dashboard. So to break things down a little more, I decided to add a little more of context, text hierarchy. These are the things that make up a dashboard and make up a narrative of your dashboard. First of all, when I was building this, the Udemy color came to my mind in the first instance, which is the purple and the white, I guess. But as you can see, maybe some persons can play with the purple color really good, but I felt like I might not be that person. So I decided to use something different entirely. But when you look at the text hierarchy, I bolded the Udemy, which is because this is what I'm trying to do. And also giving more context, like I said here, I had the subtitles trying to explain what the side of this dashboard is all about. So imagine you come up to this dashboard and I have just the title, maybe quite explanatory, but the subtitle gave it more context for users to understand what is going on here. Then on the right hand side, you could see that I added, of course, more context on this and also follow the Z pattern. And instead of using the regular pie charts here, which would have worked if I did, I decided to use donut charts because I felt like it's more explanatory than pie charts. So you could see that a lot of persons get to pay more on this web development than getting it for free. Also, down here, like I said, the Gutenberg principle. This principle, I'm going to overemphasize it in this presentation because it's really important. Sometimes the designers are not the users, right? And how you get to make your users feel comfortable while trying to use your dashboard for information or insight or answers is your layout, your colors, the key things you are highlighting on the dashboard. Before I leave this section, you would see that every time I select a subject, I highlight the subject on this side, and the color gets to change. And the subject's color is the same color highlighted on the year. So these are the ways you can, tell a story with your dashboard. But let's move further to break things down more. So on a high level executive overview, what I decided to do most in this aspect was the colors. Because like I always say, colors is for communication, not for beauty. And I decided to use 4 distinct colors, which is the pink, the orange, the blue, and the green. Now imagine I used maybe a gradient color. It's going to confuse the user more. So here I decided to use distinct color, and also I have, like I said, the text hierarchy just from all contents, the title, the subtitle. Then this part of the dashboard is fully focused on the executive level, where you can easily see the students. You can easily hover over here to see how each of the months is performing based on the selected KPI. You can also see that web development is ranking here for the students. For instance, if you, I don't know if I can play, okay. For instance, you can go to any of this and you'll find out that, this should be musical instruments. As you can see, even for the students, musical instruments is not even ranking number 1 based on the percentage of students which are offering this particular course. So these are the ways you can use this dashboard. Then maybe for the lectures, we have musical instrument ranking number 3, which is quite okay. That means we have more lecturers for musical instrument than graphic design. Of course, the review is just 6%. With that, you can easily play around this. I'm not going to store anymore, but we almost get to the end of this dashboard. So we have the right-hand side. Like I said, this dashboard is divided into 2 for the executive and other people that wants to know more on what is going on. For the student level, the first part I talked about investments. So more investment, more promotion. With this view, you can easily see how much students are being invested. And with this other side, you can see the courses you need to promote to get more of the student investing this amount of money in your course. And for the reviews and feedback, like I said, you could see how each of the reviews are ranking based on the number of students. Then the takeaway here is what made this stand out for me. When I was ideating this dashboard, I had 2 things in mind. How would the user feel? And the feeling is based on the interactivity of the dashboard and the look and feel of the dashboard. The user-centric was one of the things I had in mind. I had to make sure that the key metrics are easy to navigate. I had to make sure that they are quite interactive, such as the ability to filter by each subject, year, and all of that. For the visual aesthetics of things, I decided to not use a very sharp colors. Maybe some people can say pink and blue is sharp, but for me, so I decided to use distinct colors and make it as minimal as possible, so to avoid overwhelming the user. So these were the 2 things that I had in mind while visualizing this dashboard, and I think it made it stand out a little more, a little more rather. So yeah, thank you so much. As I wrap up, you can find my website here, you can find me on Twitter here, and you can find me on LinkedIn here. So if you have any questions, I'll be over here to answer.
Cool. Thank you, Maureen. That was so informational. Learned a lot of new things. Thank you for sharing your inspirations. And I think I learned a completely new principle today, the Gutenberg principle, the Z principle.
Thank you.
That is very insightful. So we have the Q&A open. If anybody has questions, please feel free to post them. While we get questions, Maureen, the question I have for you is, when building these visualizations, oftentimes we as designers are never fulfilled with the end product, right? So when do you stop and say, this is what is going to go out in the world, and this is now built? Or is this like a continuous process where you come back to the Viz every so often while it stays hidden in your Tableau Public folder, and you build on that? How do you build on that?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, because we designers, we are so much of a perfectionist, right? So before I start building my dashboard, I always have this in mind: it's progress over perfection. I always have to make sure that whatever I'm building might not be the best, but I still have the ability to make it the best if I build another one, not sticking on that particular one. So when the question you asked particularly was, when do I stop? When I I can't really say, Preeti. It depends, right? It depends. I think it's subjective, but for me, I always get to take a seat back at my visualization. So one of the tricks I do is I send it over to a non-technical user. So yeah, once I send it to maybe one of my family members here in the house, or one of my friends that do not know anything about visualization, and they feel welcoming about the V's, that is it for me. That is where I push it. Because if you keep waiting as a designer to mark yourself well done, you can never get to that level, Preeti. Trust me.
No, I hear you. So the follow-up for that would be, how long did it take to build you this visualization?
I think Brittany will shoot me right now, because I think one of her work she used a week, or no, hours. Well, I'm sorry, Brittany. I used almost a month to build this work. So yeah, it took me a couple of weeks rather to
Yeah.
build this.
No, that is the thing, right? Sometimes it's as simple as an hour, you build something and put it out. Sometimes it is a continuous back and forth. I do have
Yeah.
a quick question from Nicholas. His question is, there is often a difference between work and our best work. This feels like best work. What kind of changes would you consider to get your Udemy stakeholders to adapt this board as their part of daily reporting?
Mm, that's a very good question. I know I've given this more context, but if I'm to change anything in the dashboard, it would be annotation. I'm also talking about this based on work experience. I have seen the kind of dashboard I built for stakeholders without having annotations. Annotations, I mean how to use the dashboard, whereby you have a placement and you just give them, oh, click here first, click here second, click here third. So I think the changes will be the annotation on how to use it for the stakeholders. Yeah.
Cool. And I think one final question before we go, and Eric, you can sneak in a picture while we have this conversation. But so, as you said, color needs to have a purpose, and it's not just for the beauty on your dashboards, right? Philippe has a question. It looks really beautiful, but is it WCAG compliant? Am I pronouncing it right? I'm just saying the words now. I think it is the standard for the compliance, right? Across, so designing dashboards for visually impaired people so that you can make these dashboard accessible to the wider audience and promote inclusivity and equal access. Is that one of your cornerstones when you're designing your dashboards?
Yes, of course I always have in mind the maybe visually impaired or colorblind people. But with this dashboard, I don't think I implemented that, to be very honest. Based on the fact that I use a little bit of pink, which I think, yeah, it has a colorblind principle attached to it. So yeah, I also consider that. I don't know what WCAG means. Maybe he could elaborate more on that. But yeah, I consider that while visualizing. I can also recommend some of the sites I use. Maybe I'll drop it here on the link for other people to use. So yeah.
No. Oh, great. I don't see any other questions. Yeah, Agata has, for the SAVE, web content accessibility guidelines. So Those
Oh,
are the principles by
Thank
which
you,
you
Google.
can see the color
thank you.
contrast. I was like, Agata is know-all. She knows things on top of her head. Thank you, Agata, though, for doing Googling for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen, once again. Thank you for coming. This was a great presentation. We are really excited for it. Handing it over to Eric.
Yep, let's get to the good stuff. We've got some swag to give away. So let me see if my screen share will work this time. It looks like it will. Oh, maybe not. Okay, well, I will just do it and you'll have to take my word for it. I've got everybody's name loaded in the wheel of names. So here we go. It is Efrina Sari. Yep, EFRINA SARA. So I'm going to post an email in the chat. If you will send me your contact information, I will coordinate getting you your $50 swag gift card. But it's Tableau Public, tableau.public.tug@gmail.com. Thank you and congratulations. Sorry. All right, Agata and Brittany, it's all yours.
All right. I have the pleasure of introducing Brittany today. She is a design enthusiast who believes everyone is better with equitable access to data. She was introduced to Tableau Public through an internal enablement program in 2019 and has been hooked ever since. Brittany is a serial dabbler in community projects, a 7-time Viz of the Day recipient, and was a finalist in the 2023 Iron Viz competition. When she's not visiting, Brittany enjoys reading, movies, concerts, taking care of her aquariums, and growing plant collection, and traveling. Awesome. Brittany, so happy to have you here today, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And after a great presentation about, data viz best practices and analytics, I will be sharing no analytics and entirely pretty colors. So for a completely different change of pace, but I think it'll still be fun. So today, thank you for that great introduction. A little bit about me. You said Iron Viz finalist 2023. Big fan of Tableau, been using it since 2019. I've racked up a couple Viz of the Days, which is partially why I'm here today. And outside of work, love my aquariums, which we just had a hurricane come through, and luckily my place is completely fine. But it's one of those things that you're looking at and saying, why do I have 40 gallons of water voluntarily in my place already? But I also love watching movies and TV and collecting too many plants and Legos. But that's not why you're here today. You're here to learn about my most favorited Viz on Public, which is MoMA Colors, 35 palettes for Tableau. Personally, I think the favorites metric is a fun one versus views. I've got a couple Vizes that have more views than this one, but this has got twice as many favorites. So in my little head, I like to think that maybe that means people are saving it so that they can refer back to it later, or actually using it to steal the color palettes for their own work, which makes me really happy. And we'll go through how I made the Viz. So my inspiration for this, there's a fellow, Blake Robert Mills, who's a great designer, and he originally created this color palette for the tool R called Met Brewer. It's a package that showcases the palettes you see here. And those palettes were all inspired by pieces of art from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And so when he came up with this palette, I loved a lot of them and I wanted to use them in Tableau. And so I created a Viz that showcased all the palettes in sort of almost like paint strips where you can kind of see one square for each color. We all know and love the Tableau 20 color palettes, but sometimes you want to just try something a little different. And I wanted to make those palettes accessible to people to download and see what their own Vizes might look like with a fresh coat of paint. I was very proud of this Viz. Never quite like fully satisfied with it, but I thought, oh, well, it's good enough. And then, lucky me, I got a second round because Blake came out with a fairly new set of color palettes based on pieces of art from the Museum of Modern Art in New York, so MoMA Colors. So this time, looking at these color palettes, I wanted to put them in Tableau so that other people could use them as well. And I was thinking, a lot of these color palettes are inspired by, beautiful works of art. And for my Viz, I wanted to think, how could I make it look a little more art-like? But also in my free time, I already spend a lot of time in Tableau Public, so I was thinking like, okay, how can I make it look very pretty, but how can I do it without spending all of my free time on this Viz? And so the first step is actually, creating. So this was taking Blake's code, copying and pasting all of those hex codes into XML, and then loading them up into Tableau, where you can then get them in your dropdown. And then La Data Viz to the rescue. Tristan has some great advanced data visualization generators that are free and able to use in Tableau Public. So this was my key that unlocked making a Viz fairly quickly. For each color palette, I looked at how many colors were in the palette, created a CSV that had random numbers, and then uploaded them into this advanced Viz generator so that I could create Voronoi charts based on the number of colors in each palette. And then once I had the different squares for each number of colors for each palette, it was loading it up into Tableau, slapping the colors on there, and then playing a lot with layout to get it how I wanted to look. One thing I'm really proud of with this Viz is that it is entirely Tableau. There's no Figma, there's no background images. It's all just sheets and containers. And up next, I'm going to crack it open so that you can see exactly how that works without too much fussing. So first, I'll just show a little bit with the advanced Viz generator. If you go to this link, which I'll have in the slides when they get sent out, I picked Voronoi chart. And yeah, like Preethi said, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I might not be. But I loaded up my fake data into this, changed the shape to square, and then just rotated it 45 degrees to get the square that I wanted. And fun fact, if you're doing this and you say, okay, this looks cool, but the shapes aren't quite how I want them, you can just rotate it back again till you find a suitable collection of shapes for the Viz that you're working on. Now, if we go to the actual Viz itself and click Edit, this is downloadable, so if you want to crack it open at home, please feel free to do so. But if we go to the Layout tab, you see here I've got my 35 different sheets, one for each color palette. And then it's a lot of containers, one container to rule them all. And then each row is just a horizontal container. With each Viz, I use the distribute contents evenly to make sure everything is evenly spaced. And then each worksheet is actually colored with a gray background. And then it's just a lot of padding to give the white border effect. And then a few other things I threw in is this little Unicode character for each of the palettes that were designated as colorblind friendly. And then some images down here with URLs that link out to the different resources. So if you want to check out Blake's website to see more of his work, you can do so. You can get his code directly, and then links to my portfolio, the Viz generator, the XML if you want to download it and add it to your own Tableau preferences file, and instructions on how to do so. And that is the news today. Thank you very much. Thanks, of course, the team for having me here. Got a couple links for how to find those different things that I showed. And then if you want to hang out with me online, I'm on Twitter. I don't hang out as much on there anymore, but I'm on Blue Sky. And then more and more, I find hanging out in Slack, you can type more characters than you can on other sites. So I'm in the Data Visualization Society Slack and the Women in Data Viz Slack, and happy to chat Data Viz anytime.
So great. Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you.
If there's any questions for Brittany, please put them in the chat or the QA. Haven't seen anything come across yet. This was such a great viz. So fun.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun making it. One of the pieces of feedback I got, which Nick, if he's still on the call, he helped me with, is you might notice some of these, the design repeats a little bit. For example, these two have the same number of colors, so it's actually just the same chart duplicated. But these two were next to each other, and when they were next to each other, like horizontally, it looked like two samey. So I actually generated another viz with 11 shapes in it, so that they looked a little visually distinct from each other. The other thing I wanted to call out is that with my viz where they were all on a strip, you know, sometimes paint strips look nice, and then you put it on the wall and you're thinking, why did I paint this big wall, big color? So that's also why I wanted to try something a little different with this viz, is sometimes color palettes look really good on paper, and then you apply them to your business dashboard and you're like, oh, actually, no, that's way too bright. So I wanted to showcase what some of these colors would look like on actual bigger pieces of an area.
Yeah, I love that. What I love about it the most, though, is that it's inspired by art, and it looks like a piece of art, like all these little paintings hanging on a wall.
Yeah. There's a lot of stepping back and looking like, is that the right shade of gray? Should I make it white? Should I put it on a black background? A lot of back and forth.
Oh, I hear you. Well, it's definitely beautiful. All right, Eric. Anything else to close us out today? Are we doing another drawing? I don't know.
Oh, well, just the big news about next month, since really disappointed my PowerPoint's not working because I've got some cool graphics for Sam and Kimberly and Heather. But next month, we're hosting an APAC-centric event. It will be at 10 p.m. Eastern time instead of noon Eastern time. That's November 14th, which will actually be November 15th in Sydney, Australia. All of these speakers are from Australia. Kimberly and Heather will be joining us to show off their Viz of the Days. Kimberly will be showing off her Matilda Effect Viz, and Heather is showing off her Tableau Vision, which is a play on the Eurovision Viz. And I would really suggest you go out and play with that beforehand, because it's very interactive and you get to score them, and it's just a really fun Viz. And then Sam Batchelor will be here to tell us about the Social Ambassador Program and all the cool stuff she does with Tableau Public too. So join us next month on November 14th at 10 p.m. Eastern time. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yep.